No Filter Needed is the unfiltered podcast redefining modern masculinity, confidence, and grooming. Hosted by New Norm's creative director, Brooke, and journalist Mike, we explore how men can look and feel their best. From man on the street takes to expert advice, we talk style, self-care, and mental health. No fluff, no BS. New episodes drop twice a month. Follow and subscribe and connect with us at hello@newnorm.com. Well, welcome back to No Filter Needed by New Norm. For those of you joining us for the first time, we're all about having honest conversations about the silent struggles we face in our everyday lives, while sharing resources and support to help you navigate them. Here at No Filter Needed, we discuss a wide variety of subjects relating to self-care, mental health, and personal growth. My name is Brooke Williams, and I'm the creative director for New Norm, a cosmetic company created specifically for men's skin. I'm extremely fortunate to be co-hosting this podcast with Mike Fahey, an award-winning news executive and PR expert. As always, thank you for being a part of the conversation, Mike.
Thank you for having me.
Well, today we're going to get real and chat about some common reoccurrences in all of our lives. Since we launched, it's become evident how much women shape and influence men's grooming habits. And most of the men that we've met have started to not only just care about grooming in general, but also get a lot more into their mental health and just caring for themselves after a partner or a friend or even a mom has made a suggestion or two.
And it's amazing that we're seeing all it takes is one person you
Yeah,
trust, one person who matters to you. And that one jumping off point is enough to change everything for some people.
it really is. And, we've actually had a couple guys who have been really interested lately in what women secretly wish they knew about self-care and those tiny grooming details. So, you know, any little change, any effort can really make a difference. And I'm curious to get some of your insight as well as, some of the things that you've experienced.
Listen, let's peel back the curtain because I think that is one of the biggest questions people have. What do I smell like to other people? Working in news for so long, there were anchors that had a scent. And we would always joke. They would walk into the newsroom and you'd be like, oh, I know who's coming next. Because they had just that definitive signature, always impeccable. But then you go home and you're like, why don't I smell like that? How does he do that? And then, when you're a guy, you're like, I don't have anyone to ask, which is why to peel that back with what women think, I think is a really important part of this conversation.
And really, you hit the nail on the head. You never know until somebody mentions it and it just hits that one person. And, like so many subjects, this is certainly not one-sided. I've had to learn a lot about self-care from my parents and my father in particular. He has always cared about his appearance and really values investing in grooming products. And he's also very big on using products in moderation. So, with a lot of products, a little goes a long way, especially with cologne or perfume. And I know when I was younger, there were a few times where I just overdid it with my love of Bed Bath and Beyond products, like a lot of us do.
Absolutely.
And, you just get head over heels about the different scents and don't realize how strong they can come across.
And the real thing, that was probably some of the first scents you ever owned and were
Yes.
able to recognize.
Yeah, it really was. And it was almost like building a collection of,
Yeah, it was your sense
vanilla.
discovery.
Exactly, exactly. So really, I didn't realize until he sat me down and was like, listen, I know you love these products and they smell great, but, you know, using it a little bit less makes a big difference and it helps it stand out even more.
Well, I'll see that and raise you. I had one this week. It has been so hot here in the Northeast. And 2 years ago, this is the most random story I've told in recent history. I gave up socks. They no longer served me any good. I wanted to wear my sneakers just with the shoes. So I've been a sockless wonder for the last 2 years until the heat. And literally one of my colleagues was like, I hate to break it to you. You either need new shoes or you need your socks back. And I was mortified because I didn't even notice it. But then you realize, like, we spend so much time with ourselves and our own bodies. We're really sometimes the last people to pick up on certain scents as well.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I like, how he was nice about it. It makes a big difference. I think, at the end of the day, it's important, you realize it was coming from a caring place. And I really appreciate it when people come at it with kindness opposed to just being rude. That makes a big difference.
And there's something about a dad, like a dad, like with that gravitas, being the head of the family, but also like how much they love you. Like those pep talks, I always think always hit close to home too.
They definitely do. When it comes to constructive criticism, the delivery is essential. I know a lot of people who even struggle to have the conversation. Even I do, since self-care can be very personal.
What do you think about it this way? It is one of the most personal things there is.
Yeah.
And I think like it goes back to the playground. People were bullied over the spell. Puberty. That's like when it's time to change, you have to rearrange, the Brady Bunch says. But like I think that is also one of those formative moments in our lives when all of a sudden our body's doing weird stuff. And then it does almost become stigmas. I'm going to say it's too strong a word, but it's not. It doesn't like those early years, you're like, oh my God, am I going to smell that? Is it someone going to say something? That commonly is why every high school teenager uses a 9,000 pounds of Axe in the locker rooms. But you're right. It's personal because I do think that there's a core so and so smells is a big thing when you're a kid. So like that stays with us our whole lives. I've had a lot of therapy, so I like to talk about triggers and trauma, but that is something that stays with people.
Yeah, it definitely does. You mentioned something earlier about, puberty. I just wish somebody had warned me about adult puberty. I thought once we
Where is
were
that part? When is my health class?
I thought we were done with that.
I thought it was
Um,
on. Like, we're talking about puberty getting a good rebrand here. Now it's coming twice. Like, no, thank you. Like, my taste buds change every 7 years. I just can't even keep up with that.
did you random note, have you ever watched the show Big Mouth?
No.
Okay, so I highly recommend it. It has been one of my favorite shows of late, and it really heals your inner
Oh,
child because it's one of those series
wait, there are ways to do it
had.
other than ketamine?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And like through humor and everything, it just makes you realize like if you had that show as a kid, you would have felt so comfortable with going through puberty and like all of the uncomfortable things in life. So
I used
now
to
I need
overcompensating on Amazon Prime. And this is so random. Did you ever watch The Sex Lives of College Women on Max with Renee Rapp?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Talk about the most random thing of all time. The level of intimate connection that I felt with those four girls' stories. I went to a super small, super conservative like not artsy, but like rich school. Like I was Renee Rapp because I was closeted. I was the working girl from Ohio because I was the working kid from Massachusetts. Like each one of those characters I had such a close connection to. So people were saying overcompensating was a similar thing for like the gay experience. And I watched it, and I was like, the sex lives of college women did a far better job assimilating me to like, I wish I had had this back then.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. I've been hearing more and more guys mentioning how transformative those college years were in them actually starting to care about grooming and taking care of themselves.
I mean, for me, they call me Massachusetts Mike. I was in Lexington, Virginia, population 900. It is the rural South. People think Virginia is such a unique place. It is on the West Virginia side of Virginia. And I went down there. I didn't know what clothes were. I thought everyone wore Red Sox jerseys at all times. There were alligators and horses on polo shirts. And I will say that after those 4 years, I was in 3 debutante balls. I came home with a frat swoop. I'll have to find a picture because I was obnoxious. And I came home with like 75 bottles of cologne because that's just what you did in the fraternity house. That's right. I also was in a fraternity where I'm a Renaissance fan of all of the horrible things in the past that no one should ever do.
Well, now I'm curious to know, like now that you're mentioning your fraternity life too, were there any experiences or stories you had that really impacted
Oh, God. I mean, yeah.
how you
Um,
taking care of yourself?
we were slightly unscrupulous. I look back on some of those 19-year-old antics and cringe. But we had astute noses. If someone smelled, like, we would like bomb their room with like air fresheners to try to force them out. So it was like we got creative, and it was also just because it was like a southern style like a mid mansion, so we did all shared bathrooms. So it got real gnarly in there because like there was like 12 guys on the floor sharing 2 toilets and one shower. Like it was tight quarters. I've never managed it through humor and pranks to get back on a level playing field.
That's a good way to handle it.
Well, it's a really healthy way to handle it, definitely.
Yeah. And maybe you could answer this, but what is it with us being younger and thinking that the best way to cover up a bad smell is just by adding a ton of something else that smells
Okay, this
better?
is what I did tonight. I desperately needed to get into a plastic package late. So obviously the only way in was through a lighter. Then the smell was burning. And like I did the exact same thing. I need to learn, open a window, add a little ventilation. Don't spray cologne thinking it will mask the problem because it is a
Yeah.
chemical that is already burning in the air. Like, I would love to know, like, what part of our childhood we were taught that. Probably like in some random TV show. But now
Yeah,
here I am at
probably.
almost 40 and it still lingers to this day.
Yeah, it really is. And, when we started to ask people, women in particular, their thoughts on, what they wish guys knew, that was actually one of the common subjects that came up, scents and just whether it was Axe or another cologne, just being used just a little bit too much.
And I think it's interesting because two things. One, everyone is now talking about layering scents. And that's fantastic. But like you have to know how to do it. You essentially have to be a sommelier of cologne to be able to layer scents. So I think that like that is not for the weak of heart. That is not for a Saturday night experiment. Don't do it at Macy's. So I think like that's something that like is being bastardized. Is like everyone needs to have a signature scent. I have mine. It is a guarded secret that I'm going to reveal on this podcast because it's a great story. I do think that I was transformed by the Axe generation. It will turn my stomach here at 40, but am always attracted to like the crisper, fresher scents, like Glacial Freeze. Typically is my favorite like body wash. I don't know what brand that is, but like I can promise you those two words appear somewhere. So probably 2 years ago, I was at my favorite store, Marshalls. Bought this what looks to be Adidas. What I thought was like I don't know how to say the word, but like the thicker viscosity cologne. Eau de Cologne. See, like really, that's how bad my base level of knowledge is. So I'm like wearing. I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. Like it was full bodied. It was like literally my signature scent. So I wore it. People, I get compliments. I was like, I found it like 38 years old. I got my signature scent. And one day I wanted to buy more. And I went to that Adidas model. And would you know, it was actually Burberry. It was someone at Marshall had swapped the bottles. I used my good friend ChatGPT to figure out the name of the brand. But literally, one, hadn't known what I'd been wearing for several months, had based my signature scent around it. And that was the only thing you could do at that point is buy more. So luckily, it was an older scent since it was at Marshall's. So I got it at a good price. But I think that comes into it as well. Sometimes I think society goes a little too far. And like everyone needs to have a signature scent. You don't. Like, go to Macy's, see what's popular, see which one you like, wear that one. Like, I think something like the overcomplication of it, like, can you layer Dior on top of Tom Ford? I don't know. I can promise you that if I tried to do it, I would do it horrifically wrong. And as I get older, I try to know my strengths and know my weaknesses, and I know the difference. And that is one area that I'm not messing with at all.
It's a really good idea though, because I've never really considered having a signature scent, though I am like really consistent with the products that I use. I will say it was definitely like a learning process to your point of trying different products, seeing what works for you, and then figuring out that one.
And then also, like, the thing that I think is fascinating too, like, people have a signature work scent, they have a signature like night out scent. And it's funny because mine before Burberry was not a good competition. Found it my sophomore year of college. It did me good for a solid 10 years. I was getting the bottles for like $7 a piece at the end, and it was great. And in a lot of weird ways, it smells very similar to Burberry. So I'm not very adventurous. I find what I like and I stay in that lane.
Yeah, I completely understand you there. So before we dive into some of the feedback we've gotten, I'm curious to know what's the first thing that you notice when you meet somebody?
Honestly, probably being a little biased because we talked about it so much. I'm a stickler for scent, like, but not necessarily bad. Like someone who has a marquee scent, I can tell you who they are because they always smell good. And like, I mean, to me, like someone who tells you they're freshly cologned gives like regal, rich, just out of the shower. Like that is what I strive to be in life. So, I think when someone smells like that, like you appreciate it and you remember it.
Truly, I normally notice, how they carry themselves and, just how they take care of themselves in general. And when I think about what I wish the men in my life knew more, is that it's not about striving towards perfection or looking like you are an actor and getting ready to get in front of a camera. It's really just about how much they value taking care of themselves and doing whatever makes them feel best.
I know I've told the story about my first gay haircut in Boston when I went in to like the trendy place and they were going to give me the trendy haircut and they brought in a round brush and a hairdryer. And I was like, oh, what are you doing? I can't do that every day, let alone make that work. Something very similar happened to me with grooming. I just started to date a new guy. May he already, RIP, that didn't last very long. And he was like, I want to talk about your grooming routine. And I was like, I mean, listen, I'm very proud of my grooming routine. I used to have a very bad razor burn my whole life. I wound up getting like this crazy fancy razor, and then I grew a mustache and beard instead, and it was never an issue. So like, I think I'm good. Like, I'm like, what is he gonna tell me? Not only did he reshape all of my facial hair, he then hit it with one of those black pens, like to darken the color. And when I tell you I looked in the mirror, I wanted to cry. I was like, is this what I'm supposed to look like? Like, it was the most jarring experience because, like, I mean, as someone with facial hair, I take pride in it. You know what I mean? Like, I have
Right.
75 products for my facial hair. So for him to be like, you're doing it all wrong and I want it to be black, I probably at that point knew we weren't going to date much longer, but it was a
Yeah.
wild experience.
Yeah. And it's interesting you mentioned that. I know so many guys. Like, did you have like were you required to shave for work, or did you have to, or were you just shaving at that point in your life?
I think that, like, one time, like, just didn't consider supposed to because of society. I feel like that was our puberty thing. Oh, you had to shave. Peach fuzz, like, it's really coming in. And I was joking, like, I wish someone 10 years ago had been like, you look really good with facial hair because, like, I compared those pictures of myself to that and now. I'm like, what was I thinking?
To your point, though, like, it really is a bit of a societal norm. I know my husband dealt with it in the military. It was a requirement for him always to have a clean shaven face. And when he was in the Air Force, dealing with ingrown hairs and marks as a result was something he constantly had to deal with. And I've heard a couple different stories from guys throughout their career needing to make that adjustment. And, for so many guys like yourself, it's just so much healthier to not shave and let your hair grow out and just take care of it with products. And
And, like, I didn't know. I'm blanking on the name of it now, but like, there's like something you can for razor burn. There's specific products that
yeah.
must be newer because I once remember my aunt, who's like my second mom, one year for Christmas, I sent her to the art of shaving when that still is a thing. And she came back with like every product and every single one of them irritated my skin, gave me razor burn. And I just was like, I'll never figure this out. The answer was there all along. And there also was the $300 cooling razor to keep your blood vessels constricted so that it didn't create razor burn. Little science lesson there for you as well.
Yes. Yeah, that's a really good tip.
It was
Honestly,
life changing.
I can only imagine the
Oh,
difference
this is
and
crazy.
how
I don't think
better you
about
feel.
this. You're supposed to this. I actually had 6 rounds of treatment for laser hair removal on my upper lip because I was that self conscious about it. By the grace of God, it didn't take, but 6 sessions. And like then I did that to that person, and he was grossly insecure about that. Like that, and I remember I secretly, wow, this is such a crazy story. I secretly got a med spa subscription. Didn't tell anyone in my family. I was on Newberry Street, which is like the ritzy street in Boston. And I would go in secretly with a hat on get the treatment, come home. It wasn't started in secret, but like at that time, 2000, like 2013, that wave of grooming and male expression hadn't
Yeah.
swept over yet. Like the manscaping revolution wasn't there. So like, yeah, I did it secretly, like literally under the guise of hidden head, like face.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm so glad that now you can just let your hair grow
Oh,
free and wear it
you should see it in the
comfortably.
shower. No kidding. Kidding.
S But really to your point though, like, it is I'm curious to know when you reached that point. I know for myself, most of my probably the majority of my life has been adjusting my appearance to either meet the needs of others and how people think I should be looking, and I can't remember at what point. It was definitely later in life, maybe right around college, where I just realized it just wasn't worth it, and I only had so many fucks to give, and if I was going to give any, it was gonna be about my happiness.
For me, I'm like the king of yo-yo dieting, and not like that I love doing it. I don't enjoy the process. When I was in the closet, I was a really emotional eater. My therapist that then told me it was probably to almost create a physical barrier between myself and my emotions. And I would have a bad day at work and I'd come home and eat a bag of cookies. So when I came out, like that was kind of lifted a little bit. So I lost a lot of weight. Then life happens, you get it back. So there was a really powerful moment when I realized what kind of body type I have. I have really short legs. I am all torso. That means that I should dress a certain way. And when I finally accepted that and bought a whole new wardrobe, every feedback I got was like, "You look incredible. Did you lose weight?" And I was like, "It's not that I lost weight, but I added, 3 inches to the shirt, 3 inches to the pants, and I was comfortable for the first time in my own skin and in my own clothes." I would guess probably since college. And like, I just remember being like, talk about insecurities, the crazy things that I had tried, like to try to mask that area. But all I needed to do was just wear a shirt just longer and get pants that were tall sized. I mean, I've lost 175 pounds in the last year and the last 14 months. But like, I still wear those clothes because that is my torso and those are my legs. And that's what God gave me. And at least I know how to dress them now.
Yes, and really, I wanna go back to something you said, but, like, just about really feeling comfortable in your own skin and what you're wearing and just I can only it's crazy to think that I don't know how many years it was, at least for myself. What, it wasn't until I was maybe 18 or 19 where I actually felt comfortable as myself.
And I can
Like
remember moments now, like, as we talk about it, like where I would have like unhinged behavior to try to like cover my midsection. I'd carry a shop. I was with a soap opera actress who was pregnant. I'd carry the shopping bag. Like it was because I was so self conscious. But like I was a guy. Like I didn't process that emotion. I wasn't thinking in real time. Like why am I doing this? But when I look at it now, like you put on clothes that fit, and you wouldn't have had that problem in any way, shape, or form.
yeah, yeah. I well, so I just got to the point where throughout my entire life, I've in my head, like, seen myself as a certain size. So even though I continue to gain weight and, occasionally lose weight, but just continue to gain weight, I still see myself as that size. And I think it was, like, maybe last year where I was just like, "Alright, like, I am a size 10. I'm no longer a size 6. I was gonna move on from these clothes, donate them, get rid of them, and just get clothes that feel comfortable instead of constantly trying to, work out and get back to, like, it's just not worth it. Just I wanna be able to just eat food that I enjoy and wear clothes that I feel comfortable in."
Life's too short. I did purging this week, and I did 14. I'm a clothes hoarder. I'm all about a sale, and I'm also all about like Old Navy does tall sizes. When I learned that it was life changing, I'm always adding to the collection. I knew at some point I was going to need to purge. I didn't know it was going to be 14 bags worth. Yeah, I could save some clothes, but I have always had that mentality as well of being like, I want to save my 2XL tees, 3XL tees. Yeah, but I got to 4XL tee when I gained like when I was at my like highest weight. So like in some ways I have 4 different wardrobes. I hope to throw the other 3 away someday. But they're too nice right now that I wouldn't do it because like there's a great episode of Modern Family where Cam loses a ton of weight and they go to a yard sale to get rid of his jeans, and Mitch won't let him because he knows he's gonna gain the weight back. And that's another thing that's always lingered with me, thinking of that very scene. So I always save so much extra clothes. And then, because then you do wonder, does that then become a self-fulfilling prophecy?
I guess you could see it that way. You know, at this point, though, like, I actually have, like, a storage container for, like, clothes that are too small and a storage that clothes are too big, and I've been trying to just keep on to, like, a little bit of each because at this point in my life, I just keep fluctuating. But at the same time, like, there are some smaller clothes where it's just like, "This isn't gonna happen." Like, just donate these, sell them, give them to somebody who's gonna enjoy them, and, they just won't fit in the closet.
I'm at my lowest weight that I've been probably since COVID. And even since before then, probably since college. But Neil Chubari stole a Lacoste polo shirt for me my freshman year of college, my sophomore year of college. It was blue and like electric blue and bright yellow. My favorite color combo. And I knew to this day that he had stolen it. One day I was like, why don't I just buy a new one? Obviously, it's been discontinued, but they had it in XL. Lacoste was runs so small, anyways. The other night I found it as I was purging, and I tried it on, and I was like, what was I thinking when I bought this? But more so, what was I thinking when I kept it? Like, what, sir, part with your crows. Like, you don't need to hold on to everything forever.
You don't, and to, like, what you mentioned before about, like, a self-fulfilling prophecy as well, like, I do feel like when I'm getting rid of clothes, like, I'm also opening up opportunities for, like, new clothes to come into my life, so I try, like, every year to do, like, a clothing purge and just, get rid of anything that isn't being
I
enjoyed.
admire someone like you so much for that because one of my other best friends in Louisiana, she has a seasonal purge rule. She marks it down in like a catalog. If she doesn't wear a dress in 2 seasons, so there's 2 years, it immediately gets donated to someone she knows. Like she has like a little sister who like loves her clothes, but like literally, if it doesn't get worn, it's gone. And I need to be a little more ruthless about that because even just to think like at one point, I was running newsrooms across America, so I was in a suit and a tie every day, like great dry cleaning bills. COVID hit. We were still wearing pants to button. We never really brought that back. And I have my own to do my own thing. So every day looks really different clothing wise too. And I still have like all of my dress shirts and all my khakis. And I'm like, I don't think I'll ever go back to that life. So I think we can finally get rid of some of it.
Yeah. And, I know you mentioned, I think maybe in the first podcast that, what motivates you to be your best self? And you mentioned that you mainly do it for your own self-care. But when you do find you're going and you're working in front of a camera and you're next to a bunch of other women who are wearing makeup and are, looking their absolute best, I know you mentioned that you've paid a lot more attention to just taking the time to level up so that you can, feel your best when you're on camera next to them. That's correct, right?
It is because that's where my journey begins. In the ghostly winter of Baltimore, where I looked like Casper the Friendly Ghost, and like having that moment of realization that it was time to put on a tinted moisturizer. I bought 7 of them. I called every girlfriend that I had, and then I wore it and it wasn't so scary. And so you have to have that natural inclination of curiosity. Something that I've loved so much about our podcast is I am getting deeper into not just, grooming, but like skincare. I've made a lot of confessions today. I don't use really any facial products. Period. Dot. Like late middle school, early high school, I had a like really mild acne. I would use like Retin-A and it would literally rip my skin off. It was gross. So like as the time passed, I like stopped using it altogether because it hurt my skin and never really went back to it. I probably put something like I do wear my exhaustion under my eyes. So I do have some under eye pens. But like if you were to go into my closet right now, like my medicine cabinet, there's no like generic moisturizer. There is an SPF in there, but like I like buy like 2-in-1 beard face wash. Like I literally am like every trope of a oddly of a straight man, but very not straight. But like I'm a 3-in-1 bottle person because I like the way it smells. Like, hello, my name is Mike, and I have a lot to learn.
You're so not the only one, though, and it also comes down to convenience too. At least I know for myself, most of the time I'm just, washing my face and putting a moisturizer on, and then I'm good and I'm ready to go for the day. And, it's not everybody has the time for that 5, 10 step routine. I find
No, but those people,
even
they're patient, they're saints. They do things that I will never be able to do.
they are, and every now and then, like, I'll see the videos about people's morning routine where they wake up and they rub their head in ice water, and then they put on, like, all the products, and I greatly admire it. I find I normally would prefer the extra time to sleep a little bit more, and then, for people, you're just lucky for me to be there. So,
Right.
it's
I'm Gracie with my presence in the morning. You are the winner here, not me.
but really, to your point, though, like, the older I get, the more I'm, like, noticing bags under my eyes that are just perpetual. They don't go away, and
We're
I know I'm
watching one of those
hardworking,
moments is when you look in the mirror and you're like, what is that? And where did it come from? And why didn't no one tell me?
really, and so, I've slowly been starting to, like, use some, like, serums for, like, the different facial serums, and I will say in general, like, if anything, my face is feeling very hydrated. My
Great.
bags are
We love
not
hydration.
getting smaller, but hydration is being provided, so I'll take that. And then, concealer has definitely
Oh,
become a staple in my life now.
why didn't I wait so long on concealer? Well, how did I miss that? And I think that's the part of it too. Like, I think that me personally, being closeted, being married to a woman, like I was trying to hide that part of me. So if I looked at makeup in the, at CVS, I was, yeah, everyone on those guys, the whole jig would have been up. So in some ways I rebelled against it. But like, concealer is the greatest thing that I never knew I needed because it conceals whatever I want. Like, it is an eraser. And I didn't realize it was that easy or important until I started doing this podcast and like understanding these products that aren't intended nor are not terrifying, overwhelming, or scary. Like, you have to, one thing that I'll say is like, you got to be confident and you got to wear it. But like, what's all you got to do? Like, and if it doesn't look great, don't wear it, change it for tomorrow. So the best part about something like that, you get a clean slate every day to do what you want. And I ratified that something I always used to say about the news. Every day is another day. And if you put on too shade too dark today, get it right by the end of the week. 2025 is a wild time to be alive. But when you think about that very small corner of it, that's a very cool time to be alive too.
It is, and it seriously is, like, kudos to the guys who are making the effort to just try. Because,
And I
like you said
feel like
earlier,
I know who was in my high school. He scared the piss out of me because he was so confident in his homosexuality. And I just remember being like, I could never be that guy. And he wore it, he had concealer on when we were 16 years old. And I told that to him once. So I ran into him at a bar in the last few years. And I was like, you were so intimidated growing up because you were so confident. And like, people could look at you with well eyes and you just be you. And like, now at 40, I want to celebrate that. He didn't have to be that confident, but he set that bar high for other people.
yeah, and now you're just as confident.
I mean, listen, throwing on the concealer, you watch me walk through a crowded people, like I'm that guy.
Really, and what you said before about, like, every day is a new day, and, every product can always be washed off with makeup remover. So,
And
whether
then the day, I didn't even with that one. If you don't like it when you leave the house, take it off.
exactly. So, whether you try the products by yourself or with some friends, I love how you mentioned, you got some friends together and they pepped you up and, helped you try the product on.
And now that's when we always joke about our skin tones. We always like how there's just like I want to say I was like we're all Irish, but I was like 4 shades lighter than one of my friends. And like he's giving me crap about that. He's like, well, I'm not translucent like you. And I'm like, I didn't report to be anything else.
How did you go about actually finding what shade was right for you? At the time, like, you would try on a bunch of different shades.
Think of it as when you're painting your wall and you do all those little squares. It's exactly what we did with our faces.
Yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, if you don't have, like, the technology at the time to just pull up a camera and get your results, that's really the way to do it, or just, guesswork.
And then I think back to that too, like initially I would only order products off of Amazon. I wanted in a non-conspicuous box, like, and then I mean that's like literally 4 years ago. To see who I am today, like I don't know, you get an appreciation for the journey.
You definitely do. And, I'm always really happy. I've been hearing about more and more guys who have been brave enough to actually just like walk into Sephora and go and talk to somebody and be like, I'm dealing with these issues and I'm looking for help with this. Like, where do I need to start? I heard from a doctor the other day who just mentioned the importance of ingredients for him. So he was like, I was determined to like speak with them about every ingredient and determine, like, what was the best product for my skin.
And those are the people that I celebrate because, like, it becomes a passion project. They become the detective into their own lives, but also then become this incredible wealth of information. And more often than not, they want to share that with the world, which makes them great people too.
Yeah, it really does. And, I so admire the determination to find a solution that works best for yourself and the level of ease that, guys end up experiencing once they try it. I think it's such a hurdle to actually get the product and start using it. So, when they find out how easy it actually is, it's always a surprise.
I think that's one of the biggest surprises.
Yeah.
I put on concealer for the first time, and I was like, that was it. And my buddy hit me with some setting spray, and I was like, well, the red lines are gone. I look normal. And I'm someone who gets so red. If I fall asleep, my sheets are kind of wrinkled. I'll wake up and have like red lines all over my body. They go away. But like, to have like that ability to get rid of them as you leave the house, it's a really nice, it's a really nice way to live your life.
It really is. And, from all the feedback that we've gotten the past few weeks, the most important thing that I've been hearing from a lot of different women is just wanting guys to know that it's not as hard as frequently it's made out to be and as hard as you see on social media. And, just wanting the guys in their life to know that they really don't need to focus on building an entire collection of products, just finding that one or two things, like you said last episode, like figuring out what that one or two areas, that you
You
want to
don't
work.
need contour. You don't need a highlighter. Like you got to hit like concealer, little tinted moisturizer, and you can be a new person. Like, and then if it hits your fancy and you love it that much, you will find your way to those products. But the gateway is a very nice landing strip to come in here, and the water's warm. Come on in.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, the other week I was talking to Taylor, and to those listening, she is our fabulous producer and PR specialist. And she mentioned the importance of wanting to be with a partner who just values taking care of themselves and someone who is willing to take as much time as she does to look their best when they go to events and they go out. You know, this way they can, feel their best together and capture, pictures and just, you know, make the most of the moment and the time they spend together when they go out.
And it's funny because I sometimes will wear a little bit of a influencer like socialite hat in Boston. And I was just at two events yesterday, and the couples that were there together, that like you just saw they both bought in. There was something so cute about it. Like you can tell how much they really loved each other. I know someone, not a friend, I've actually never met her, but we have a lot of friends in common. Her now husband brought lighting boards to the DMB so she would get the perfect DMB picture. Like if that's not your soulmate, I don't know who is. Like, but I do think that it's like, and then you teach each other and you learn together, and I think that commonality is huge.
And it's super, super sweet. I can't believe they did that. That's adorable.
Oh, and they're literally, and he's a director. They're great.
Yeah.
So when she, so yeah, so they can't do much wrong anyways. Like when you see, a guy at a fashion show with his wife, and like he's absolutely really getting excited. Like there's just something cool when you realize you have a shared hobby.
Mhm. I also, when I see that, I also kind of admire the level of conversation they're able to have between the two of themselves to both, develop together and, learn from each other. So I find it very admirable.
Those are a couple of those for sure.
Yeah. But truly, with everything that we've been hearing from women and really just people in general about their preferences when it comes to their partner, I think the top three priorities that has really been standing out has been their devotion to hygiene, grooming, and overall confidence. Those have kind of been like the top 3 areas that have come up, but really consistently throughout all those categories, I find that what people most appreciate goes back to what we've been talking about, and it's just the effort and the willingness to have the open conversation around these areas.
And it's like love. It's like that old talk. Love and marriage. You can't have one without the other. And I think those three pillars are where people look. Those are the secrets. We've exposed the secrets. Now go and do with them as you may. But it's just, I think you probably, if we had played the Family Feud, we probably would have gotten all three of those at some point. But also, like, it also shows us, like, when agenda setting, when priority setting, keep it simple, keep it basic. Rome wasn't built in a day. Neither was flawless spaces. I think there's something to be said, and then taking that time to figure out what's right for you. Because as each step of your puzzle comes together, you get a little more swag in your step, you get more confident, and that's not something that needs to be rushed.
It really isn't, and, just start off small. I know we
Yeah,
say that
baby steps.
so frequently, start with one thing, whether it's a moisturizer, you're ready to add some tint,
I need some change. We're all tinted in this family these days.
So, really, to wrap it up, at the end of the day, grooming is not about being perfect or impressing anybody but yourself. That might be some people's priorities, but I know for myself, it is just about feeling good. And if you're lucky to, find somebody who cares enough about you to nudge you in the right direction, then you're fortunate that it's coming from somebody who cares about you. And, at the end of the day, don't be afraid to try something new.
Absolutely. And, like, can always consider that source. If it is a family member, a parent, like, who's coming to you with a pure heart, like, give them grace because it's probably a really hard conversation for them to have with you in the first place. And just, embrace that journey because you're walking with them
Yeah,
as you conquer whatever problem has arisen.
exactly. Well, thank you all for joining us on No Filter Needed by New Norm. Remember that self-care isn't selfish, it's essential. So whether it's a small grooming habit or is simply opening up about a challenge, any step you take towards feeling like your best self matters. Let's keep the conversation going. And if today resonates with you, share it with someone who might need it and follow our podcast on your preferred platform.